And to build on that, to build on our reckoning with our past, with our present, with our history, I would like to end today by continuing my series of sharing quotes and stories from Americans born into slavery. So anybody who doesn't know, about 2.5 years ago, I started sharing stories and quotes from Americans born into slavery. Well, what I found when looking through a lot of these records are that when I started doing it in Black History Month, there were so many people to choose from, but very quickly there weren't. Very quickly I reached the limit of how many Americans born into slavery were famous enough, or were able to write enough, or were even listened to enough to have famous quotes and stories passed down. And something I found was the Slave Narrative Project that was out of, I don't actually remember which college at this point. But it was a project that basically did, in the early 1900s, what we are doing for the Holocaust right now. It's looking at a world going, the survivors of this are dying. Their stories have not been told. We need to document their stories before they pass away. So they made an effort to talk to hundreds upon hundreds of Americans who were born into slavery. We have talked a lot about the complications of this process. One of the quotes that sticks with me a lot is something Rick said when he was talking about the criticisms of this work from individuals who were involved in the work directly, and how they said it was a vivid picture of empathy and racism. How it carries with it some of our best tendencies to love and want to share stories of our neighbors, and some of the worst ways we still saw our neighbors at the time. And a lot of this, I think, gets caught up in big ideas, because it's hard to choose what I think should be said, because I want to make sure that I'm speaking in a way that is clear, that gets across how they feel in ways that feel important and meaningful, that add their stories back into this conversation, back into our history. But this leaves me at a tough point. So before I share what I have written as what I've cataloged as 3 stories that I think speak to the American experience now and then, I also want to mention that there's a lot of things I've seen through writing this that I haven't shared. A lot of stuff that is interesting, but I haven't known how to share. One of the most common sentiments I've seen in these interviews, and with this wording nearly exactly, is young people are too fast these days. Young people are just too quick. The world's moving too fast. None of the young people know responsibility or have taken time to learn their manners. And it's such a simple statement, and such a clear one that so many people have felt, that I didn't think to share it. But at a certain point, this is their true sentiments. Whether or not they speak to some unacknowledged truth or not, these are real Americans speaking about their experiences. But it sometimes goes beyond that. One of my favorite quotes is, this is from Clarice Bowden, "I look at these young folks and it seems like they are all in a hurry, like they are on the last round. These here seabirds," and she points to a machine called a Seaberg, which is a very prototypical music machine, and says, "It's ruining the young folks." There's a lot of sentiments like that, and I want to make sure those sentiments are captured, even if I can't just read them over and over again. But there's also sentiments I struggle with. When going through these stories, I have found individuals not only who talked about who they saw as quote-unquote good slave masters, but also ones who very clearly believed in slavery. People who people who are born into slavery who didn't believe in mixed race marriages. People who were against the right to vote for women or for black people. And these all came from these same stories from Americans born into slavery. And that's difficult to deal with. And obviously, I don't think I'm the most equipped to sort through that. And I think it's a great example of when we truly want to love our country, sometimes we have to try to work through things even when we don't know how to process them yet. Even if we don't know exactly what to do with them, if they are part of our history, part of our country, they need to be acknowledged. In that spirit, I want to end today by sharing 3 quick quotes/stories that I think really show an American experience in a way that is nuanced and complicated, but also vivid and relatable in certain ways. The first is from Lula Jackson at the age of 78 in Arkansas. Quote unquote, I went up here to Judge Brewster to see about the pension, and he said, you have a home? I said, yes. He said, you got it paid for? I said, yes. You got a deed? Yes. Got an abstract? Yes. Well, bring it up here and I'll sign it and you'll get the pension. But I wouldn't do it, miss. I would starve till I was stiff as a peckerwood pecking at a hole before I'd sign anything on my deed. Miss, I wouldn't put a scratch on my deed. I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them if they were behind a Winchester. A relationship with the system, with American politics and systems that feels so vivid. The next is from Lula Jackson in Alabama, age 79. I went to school in Alabama, round on a colored man's place, Mr. Winters. That was near a little town called Fort Mitchell and Silver, I think Boulevard, where they put the men in jail. I was a child. Mrs. Staith, a white woman from the north, was the second teacher I had. The first was Mr. Groller. My third teacher was a man named Mr. Nelson. All these men were white. They weren't colored teachers. After the war, that was, I have the book I used when I went to school. Here's a little arithmetic I used. Here is the blue speck speller. I have McDuffie's primer too. I didn't use that. I got it out of the trash basket at a white people's house where I worked. They threw it out one day. That's what they use now, isn't it? Here's a book my husband gave me. He bought it for me because I told him I wanted a second reader. He said, well, I'll go up to the store and get you one. The plantation store. He had to put it on his own account, but he got it for me. I used it to study my lessons. I turned the whole class down. It was class spelling, and I turned the whole class down. Publication. Publiation. They couldn't spell that, but I'll tell the world the next day they could spell that. My teacher had a big crocus sack, and when she got tired of whipping them, she would put one in the sack. She never did put me in. She never did put me in that sack. I got a whipping most every day. I used to fight, and when I wasn't fighting for myself, I was fighting for the other children that would be too scared to fight for themselves. They're fighting for them. That whipping in your hand is the worst thing you ever got, brother. It hurts. I put a teacher in jail if they ever whip one of my children like that. And lastly, I have been single ever since 1923. Just booming around white folks and trying to work for them and making them give me something to eat. I ain't been trying to find no man. When I can't find no cooking and washing and ironing to do, I use the farm. I can't farm now. Though. Of course, I got no work to do to amount to nothing. They say I'm too old to work. The welfare helped me though. Don't know what I'd do if it wasn't for them. I got some commodities too, but I don't got any wood. Some people say they pay house rent, but they never paid none of mine. I had to go to Marianne and get my application straight before I could get any help. They charged me $50 to fix out the application. The welfare wanted to know where I got the money to pay for the application if I didn't have money to live on. I had to get it, and I had to get the money to go too. If I hadn't, I never would have gotten the help. I think these three stories are not easy to process. They speak to multiple parts of the American experience, whether it's our distrust in systems, our dedication to proving ourselves more powerful than those who look down on us, or simply our desire to get help, and how so often, even when it seems like we're being given help, it's been put on us to demand it at the same time. And those are simply three of the first thoughts I had while reading. Coming into the next year, I'm looking to share more stories like this that aren't as clear-cut as what they mean for now, but provide us with a picture of America that looks so different, yet not so different, and forces us to reflect on what our country truly is, who we are as a country. Because if we are going to love our country the way we can, I believe we have to live up to our principles the way we can. And in order to do that, we need to know who we are so we can know what we need to do better.